Good evening, everybody. Thanks for coming out to the Warrant Committee meeting. Tonight we have an agenda of voting. Hopefully everybody got a chance to just take a cursory look at least at the warrant draft that I sent out the other night. There's one up on the screen now that has been slightly amended from what I distributed to you. Luckily, we had an offer from Anne-Marie and Amy today to take a look at the draft that I had sent to you guys. And they found a couple of typos in some numbers, in some of the recommendations. I don't think any bottom line numbers were wrong, but some of the line items needed to be corrected. So anywhere where they made a change, I noted it in orange. And then there's one issue that they may have uncovered with the stabilization funds, which are at the very end, and we can talk about them when we get there. But overall, I was really pleased with the limited number of issues that they found, and hopefully that means that we're in pretty good shape for doing some voting tonight. So the recommendations will be on the screen, and if anybody has their laptop, I did send out to you. We're working from book 14. I emailed out to you book 14 just as this meeting was starting, if you want to follow along there. And I can try to make that even a little bit bigger.
Yeah, that would be good.
Hey, too big, too big. I can't read it all now.
No, that's good.
Let me see. Can you still read it?
Yes, I can.
All right. So I have a recommendation, and that would be that, like last year, there's one person who's responsible for moving the article as written, and then another person responsible for seconding, unless there's an issue with the article, and then we can take a different tact. And that's really for Julia's benefit, so that it's easier for her to write the minutes. Can I have a volunteer to do the moving and the seconding?
I'll move it.
You'll move? And Jim, thanks so much. All right, so of course, if there's anything that we need to pause on or stop or whatever, we're going to do that. And did anybody, before we start, did anybody uncover anything when they were previewing the warrant that they want to discuss before we start looking at articles? Phil found something.
You did?
Yeah, and it was a good thing that he noticed it too. Anne-Marie and Amy were able to fix that for us today.
Great.
So that table is correct in the version that I sent out. A pasting issue.
What's book 14? I don't know what you mean when you said book 14.
When Julia and I pass a version back and forth between ourselves, if I make some changes, I advance it to the next book number and then I give it to her so that we have version control.
Okay.
So that, I'm working on book 14 and then she'll have book 15 and then she'll get, or, whatever number she gets. So book 14 is the most recent version and the one that we're working from tonight.
Okay.
Anne-Marie and Amy had book 13. All right, well then I think we're going to jump right in. The first couple here are pretty standard. Article 1 is about the report of the town accountant.
I move to accept as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you. Article 2 authorizes the collection of taxes.
I move to accept as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Article 3 authorizes the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements during the fiscal year, blah, 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 blah.
Move to accept as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Article 4, to see if the town will vote to authorize the moderator to appoint a committee of 5 citizens. This is a thing called the Legislative Committee, and they advise on town council.
Move to sadly accept as written.
Okay.
Second.
All those in, any discussion, sorry. Do you want to comment on sadly?
Yeah, I think he's a gentleman and a scholar, and I've enjoyed working with him immensely, and I think he's going to be sorely missed.
I don't know that he's leaving. This is a standing committee that's voted every year to give advice. I'm pretty sure we just renewed our contract with
all right.
Flynn at a higher rate, slightly higher rate. But
Okay.
this is a sort of a standing committee that meets every year to advise the selectmen.
Then I'm not sadly.
Okay. Thought you were going to mount a protest.
No.
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Article 5 would extend the Town Government Study Committee.
Move to accept as written.
Thank you. Did we, actually, I think we might have already done this one. We did. And I'll just note that I wrote the comment for this one last night, and it was a pleasure to write it because this committee has been so productive and has
Yeah.
done so much good, yeah.
Can I suggest we re-vote it? I probably should recuse from voting on it.
Okay, sure. You want to move?
I move to accept as written.
Thank you.
Second.
Article 5, second, thanks, Jim. All those in favor? Any opposed? All recused? One recused. Thank you. Article 6, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for capital items to determine how said appropriation will be raised. This list is exactly the same as the one that was distributed to you earlier in the year as voted by the Capital Improvement Planning Committee. I've highlighted the $300,000 for surface drains because it is highly likely that this is going to change the next time the Capital Improvement Committee meets, but it was recommended to me that we vote on it as is, and once we receive a revised recommendation, we change our recommendation. We're hoping that the number is going to stay the same, otherwise we're going to have to change the budget in many different
So
places.
it's just the mix.
So it's all of these things here in this table. Recommended the town appropriate $2,758,160, and then the description of all of these projects or pieces of equipment and the amounts of money, and it adds up at the bottom there. And it says that it's a mix of bonded and non-bonded. The total appropriation is on the first line, and then you see the bonds would amount to $2,063,410, and then the balance will be raised by funds certified from free cash.
I move to accept as written.
Second.
Discussion?
I have a
Yes,
question.
Betty.
When Bill Ritchie was in to discuss some of the needs, maybe it's a different budget, he was talking about the school roofs that had never been done when we did the school building project, and that's not in this, that's something separate?
Roofs and roads are the main areas of discussion that we expect on Friday morning.
Okay.
The schools have the roofs in their 5-year capital plan. They did not have them for 17. I don't know if that will move up or not.
Okay, thanks.
I will also note to you, sorry, I said it was exactly the same as what was distributed to us, but there is one change. This top line here used to have an allocation for consolidated facilities for $63,500. Ted and I powwowed on that, and we talked with Amy about it as well. And we decided to move that recommendation from the CIPC table to the consolidated facilities budget and reflect it there. Remember, we were talking about needing that line item that showed annual projects and improvements, or whatever, town projects and improvements. So you'll see that line in the article when we get to there. It was in the version that I sent out to you the other night. And that line was technically funded at about $85,000 2 years ago. It was funded $60,000 last year, and we don't want to show zero this year and have that lump of money be in the capital improvements budget. So what I'm going to do in the comment is I'm going to call out that the Capital Improvement Committee approved that amount for school building repairs, and that it is currently reflected in the consolidated facilities line. I think I might have alluded to this in the email that I sent to you, because later on when we get to the Affordable Housing Trust, if we choose to reduce the Affordable Housing Trust, that line is a good place to put some of that money so we could creep closer to the $100,000 target that we had discussed. So that's all to come later, but I'm sorry I forgot to preface this article by saying that we did move that amount of money out. After I discussed it with Amy, she was pretty good with that change, and I'll lob that out there for discussion here now if anybody has any questions or
So that
concerns.
reduced the bottom line total?
It reduced the bottom line total by that same amount of money.
To that number, it's 2758 or whatever.
That should be the new number, yes.
That is the new number, okay.
The original CIPC recommendation was $2,821,660, and it's been reduced by the 66. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm a paper guy. Okay, so any further discussion? No. All those in favor? It is unanimous. Thank you.
Richard, did you?
I just walked in, I don't even know what you're
It's
voting.
not
Okay.
unanimous.
It's
Start
not
at seven.
unanimous.
I don't think I moved that.
You did.
You did.
Warrant.
You did.
You did.
Why don't,
I don't know what it is.
do you want to say one abstain?
Sure.
You want to abstain, and then you'll be here for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Article 7 appropriates to the Board of Selectmen for the general audit and GASB 45 valuation. As you'll see in my comment, when I write my comment, the GASB valuation only happens every a couple of years, so that's not reflected in fiscal year 17, so there was a reduction there. But the general audit actually increased by a couple $1,000s, as we heard, because of some additional GASB requirements that we have to meet. So they kind of offset each other a little bit, and the total reduction is not the full $8,000. So it's $63,200, as discussed when we had the staff in, okay?
Okay, I move to accept as written.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Now it's unanimous. Okay, Article 8, to see what sum of money the town will appropriate for the purpose of funding cost items not in departmental budgets. And this is for bargaining agreements reached before or after this town meeting between town and bargaining units represented town employees. This amount of money is recommended to be set aside for all those departments that are not the fire department, because the fire department just settled. But in order to be able to negotiate in good faith with the departments, you have to have the money set aside, or else you can't actually fulfill the promises that you make during a negotiation. So that's why this money is set aside.
Okay, move to accept as written.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous, looks like. Article 9, this is the contributory retirement and group insurance, and you'll see that there was a typo on the fiscal year 16 in the version that I sent to you, so that's been corrected now. The recommendation for 17 was correct all along.
Okay. I move to accept as written.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay. Article 10 puts $100,000 into the Division of Employment Security for benefits.
Okay, I recommend this as written.
Thank
Second.
you. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous. Article 11 is Chapter 13, known as the Personnel Administration Bylaw, and this is a very long table that was supplied to us by Anne Marie's office, and it shows all of the different positions that we have in town. And then the recommendation, which is at the bottom of the table, shows the dollar amounts that are being set aside, $35,327 to fund wage adjustments effective July 1st, 2016. And then here's the list. The entire amount would be raised from the tax levy.
Okay. I move to accept this as written.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Article 12, the public safety budget. So the changes that I made to this include the addition of that $75,000 to the salary and wage line for fire. Phil noted that it would be probably best if we could pull that out and show it on a separate line. Haven't heard back from Ted on that topic, but he had discouraged me from adding lines to these tables and had suggested that it would be probably more appropriate to show it in the comment. So that's where we are right now. If folks want to talk about that and revote this at a later time, I'd be definitely open to that. But if it's acceptable to vote it now so that I can distribute this, that would be helpful to me. There was one typo here in this number. It was I think a 1 instead of a. I'm gonna check this math just to make sure it came out correctly. If somebody wants to beat me to it, you can feel free.
Fire?
So it's 12,640, 162 plus, or minus, 12,638, 762. Difference of $1,400. So I had accidentally substituted a 1 instead of a 7, and Amy caught that. Thank you very much, Amy. So any questions before we move the public safety budget?
Nope.
Okay.
I move to accept this article as written.
Second.
Discussion? Yes.
No, I would still like to pursue listing those separately and finding out why that's an issue. We have other items here with 4 and 5 line items in their budget. I think the comment is an appropriate place to raise a concern, if we have it, about the amount of overtime. I think the reporting that there is a substantial amount of overtime is best done in a line item.
Okay. I appreciate the willingness to move this with this question outstanding, and I will follow up with Anne Marie and Ted to see if there are any issues, and then we can bring this back the next time we come. Yeah?
Now, this question on this question, are you wanting to move out all of the overtime or just that 75?
Fire and police.
Okay.
Fire and police.
Okay, just move overtime as a separate line item
Yes.
on both?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying, 'cause-
Yeah.
all right, yep, okay, so.
Great. Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Now, we vote.
Any? Go ahead.
I'm sorry, but, so are we voting now to amend this as?
Not yet.
No, yeah.
We're going to
Okay,
bring that
all
up
right,
later.
okay.
So,
All right.
any opposed? And then 1 abstain?
Yeah, I
Okay.
should probably have
Yes,
listened
you're
to
fine.
something.
You're fine. So you can catch up on Article 13. Great. You okay, Julia? Great. Amy, I'm glad you're here to help check our math. You missed the lotting that I gave you before you came in. I'm so appreciative of all of your looking at the numbers today. It really helped out a lot. Kept us from having to revote a couple of things. So thanks so much. Okay, Article 13 is general government, which is a doozy. It's a bunch of different budgets, and this is the main area where Amy spent her time today. And we have this straightened out. Here, this section that is orange is the section where Phil noticed that there was some numbers. I think it was 30,900 that was pasted too many times. So we have the numbers correctly broken out for 15 and 16, and then the distribution is now correct for 17. The overall number at the bottom was always correct, but something was not right in the lines up above for the selectmen's
I almost
deposit.
decided to run for selectman.
It's a good part-time job. There's the bottom of the recommendation.
Okay, move to accept this article as written.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? It is now unanimous, right? Okay, thanks. Article 14, boards and committees. There likewise was an error that was caught here on general expenses and transportation for council on aging. It was, I think, a $1 error, and it now adds up correctly to the bottom line number. There was a couple of times where there was some rounding issues where we were not exactly sure with what to do with the dollar, but this was a typo. Okay, and then the total recommendation is there at the bottom. 15,000 of it will come from free cash, and that is for the planning board's project to do zoning codification, which we approved the other night. Okay.
Okay. I move to accept this article as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Article 15 is Public Works. And I think there's no changes to this one from what I sent out the other day. And we have a great comment in here written by Steve McCurdy. Thank you very much.
I move this article as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Article 16, we cannot vote at this time. Let me just go back up for a second. So Articles 16, 17, and 18, I think we're waiting for some numbers from Joe Lynch. And they won't affect the budget because the amount that's reflected in the Water Enterprise Fund, the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and the Stormwater Enterprise Fund is offset with the same exact amount of money in expenses as revenue. So once we do get these final numbers from Joe, which will hopefully will be soon, we'll put them in and we will then vote on these 3 articles at that time.
So what articles?
The 3 that we're skipping are from DPW, and they are, 16 is the Water Enterprise Fund, 17 is the Sewer Enterprise Fund, and 18 is now the Stormwater Enterprise Fund. So we're just waiting for the tables and the breakdowns from them. We know generally the amounts. Okay, Article 19 is appropriate for maintaining roads. This is Chapter 90 money, 622,978. Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Ways, yeah.
I move that we accept this article as written.
Second.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor? Unanimous. Great. Article 20, and thanks for that write-up. Article 20, to see what sum of money the town will vote to appropriate for rehabilitation and replacement of the town's water system. $500,000 item, per usual.
I move we accept this article as written.
Second.
Any discussion? It's really the recommendation that you're moving, not the article.
Yeah.
All those in favor? Unanimous?
More chances, I think.
More chances? Yeah, you're going to get plenty of chances. Unanimous. Article 21. Oh, now Anne Marie is here. Anne Marie, you also missed when I gave you all the credit in the world for helping us today. Really appreciate that. You caught a couple of typos that would have cost us having to revote, so I really appreciate it. We need to discuss with you the free cash and the last article for the stabilization fund. So I may call you guys up when we get to that point, okay? 'Cause there's just something I need to ask you about. Do I want that? No.
I do, though.
You're
Great.
stuck with it now.
All right, I think we're, yes?
On Article 21,
You might have to come to the table or else the TV folks are going to be very upset with me. So Article 21 is rehabilitation and replacement of the town's surface drain system, $300,000, right?
I would respectfully request that you just add a word in your recommendation.
Okay.
On the second line where it says town surface drain system, you add in town surface drain stormwater system, so that people understand that this is the stormwater enterprise. This 300,000 will be in the stormwater enterprise article.
Do you want it capitalized, or is that sufficient?
That's
Do you
fine.
want it to say something like Stormwater Enterprise Fund, or just the word stormwater?
I think we could just say drain stormwater system. I think that's fine.
Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
It's actually up there.
What did you say, Darnell?
Look up on the thing, it says, stormwater system.
I just,
Stormwater surface drain system, but it's not, it's just surface drains.
oh, you already
They drain
added
the
stormwater in
surface.
there. Oh, okay.
No, I just typed it in
Oh,
just
okay.
now.
Oh,
Do you have a concern?
Great minds think alike.
Would stormwater system be easy on here? Surface drain, stormwater?
You could, yeah, you-
Stormwater
just
system.
stormwater system, yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah,
Or do
I
you
just
want it in
wanted more
parentheses?
clarification so that people knew that
No, it's
that
been
was
called
really-
surface drain for a long time, but it's the stormwater system.
What if I were to put surface drain in parentheses after stormwater system? Is this acceptable?
Sure.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
No
Thank
problem?
you.
All right. Thank you, Anne Marie.
I move we recommend this as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. So you'll need this book for the minutes because we made that change, okay? So that was 21. Okay, 22 is to see what money we'll appropriate for MWRA. It's 914,000. What is it? It's for cost incidental to
It's the sewer system.
the sewer system. Thank you. Appreciate that. $914,000.
I move as written to accept this.
Thank you.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? It's unanimous.
What is that? What is that, caps?
This is the recommendation. Somebody stuck a note in here. Should this be
Okay.
in caps? And I'll look at that later.
Okay.
Was that from you? Okay. We'll chat with Steve. What is it? Oh, you want this inflow in caps?
No, the I and I is in, well, yeah, whatever. Get the little cap.
It shouldn't be in caps unless
It doesn't
it's,
matter.
unless it's the abbreviation, probably, right? Okay, great. Okay, Article 23 is, I think, a new reoccurring article that we're going to vote each year that allows the Board of Selectmen to negotiate easements. I think that's correct. Let me read it to you. To accept on behalf of the town, except with respect to real property, any and all easements for the following purposes: roads, sidewalks, vehicular. Anne Marie, do you mind coming to the table so I can ask you a question? One thing I never understood about this article was why it excludes dwellings with 6 or more units. Do you have any idea?
I do not have the answer to that, I'm sorry,
Okay.
but I can get it.
But this is the way it was voted last year,
That's
and
correct.
it's my understanding that it needs to be revoted every year to authorize this for the Board of Selectmen.
Yes, throughout the year, the Board of Selectmen is then able to take easements.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a standard boilerplate, but I can find that out for you tomorrow.
Okay. Well, thanks for coming to the table anyway.
I move that we recommend this as written.
Thank you.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous, right? Darnell? Good? Okay. Article 24. Okay, so this is the gift purchase eminent domain for easements for the East Milton Square reconstruction project. And we already voted this article, but in the version that I sent to you, I accidentally left off this last part of the sentence, which you added in during the meeting. So it's back in this version now, and it's in orange, just to let you know that that I had missed it when I sent that out to you. But no change required. Article 25 is the budget for the Board of Health. There's been no change since I sent that.
I move that we accept this as written.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Great. Chuck, thanks for playing musical chairs.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, Article 26 is for the library, and there's been no change since I last sent it out. And just to be clear, this free cash contribution is for their sick leave buyback.
Okay, I could have sworn that I saw it was 1337, but maybe I'm wrong.
For the sick leave buyback?
No, for the library. Is that,
1337? Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Let me add it up. So it's 1340787 is the total budget, and we take out $12,040 for the sick leave buyback, which leaves 1328747. You want me to check the budget quickly?
It's not,
134787. Let me look at the budget quick.
okay.
$134787. What do you have?
1,337,397. This is what came out, I believe this is what you sent me today. Under 2017 non-contingent budget request.
Let me just check what the difference is. 3,390.
Uh-huh.
That number
I
is-
have seen that come through a lot, that error, when I keep checking back and forth.
Do you know what it is?
No.
No, I mean,
Oh.
It wasn't that, didn't he revise his budget?
oh,
for that
okay.
amount? I forget exactly what it was, but he submitted a new one. I think the number that I have, that you gave me today matched what I had.
Okay, so Amy is saying that the difference is because of the revised budget, and the one that we have reflected in the current warrant draft today is the accurate number.
Okay,
So that might be the
so
difference.
that's good?
Yep,
Okay. All right, I move that we accept this as written.
thank you.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous, thank you. Okay, Article 27 is for the cemetery, and there's been no change since that was distributed.
I'd like to move as this article is written.
Second?
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thanks. Okay, Article 28 is Parks and Rec. And there's been no change since I sent that out. Get the full recommendation on the screen. There you
Okay.
go, almost. You can get the top line, but not the last line.
I move we accept this as written.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
could I recommend that whoever writes the comment for Parks and Recreation be sure to include the testimony of the chair with respect to the amount of money they spend on disadvantaged kids?
Oh, that's nice.
So that-
That's a good point.
So that it's out there in the budget in
Yep.
the event that we are once again asked to collect funds from members of the town meeting or shift money from somewhere else to it when it's already being spent in larger amounts than we've ever appropriated.
That's very good.
Thank you. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
I'll add that in. Anything else? Article 29 is the school department, and I am embarrassed to say that I made a typo. When I changed the number on the bottom line to add in the $950,000 of free cash, I neglected to put it in the top line. Amy and Anne Marie caught that for me. Thank you very much. And that this number also had a typo in it. So my apologies. The bottom line number is the number that we had expected all along. I just had a typo. So this includes the $50,000 additional that we gave the schools for the operating increase. As I told you, they voted last week to come up with the $100,000 on their end through a mixture of energy and whatever else they managed to do, so that they could fund the ongoing need for the full tuition-free full-day kindergarten, and this includes now the $950,000 in free cash to fund the first year of that program.
Okay. I move we accept this as written.
Second?
Discussion. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Article 30 is, what'd you say? For Blue Hills? This is the assessment. I put that, Ted asked me to add this word in. It was in the budget last year, or the warrant last year, and it just got deleted accidentally. So the revised number is reflected here for fiscal year 17.
I think it's Blue Hills Regional High School, not college.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you guys will give me just a minute of leeway here, I'll look that up to just see what it was. Somebody want to race me to Article 30?
Blue Hill Regional.
I have the brochure.
You have the brochure. I didn't bring my brochure from the other day.
You know the handout that they have.
After the schools. So it was called Blue Hills Regional last year, as I think Anne Marie just yelled out. Would that be acceptable to everybody? Blue Hills Regional?
Blue Hill Regional Technical
Blue Hills
School.
Regional Technical School, yeah.
There you go.
Thank you. Good catch. It's not a college. Let me just peruse this to make sure I didn't say that anywhere else. No. Okay, good. Fixed.
Okay. I move we accept this as written.
Second?
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Right. Jean, you're...
Oh, yes, I
Yeah,
did.
okay.
Mhm.
Article 31 is consolidated facilities. So here, you will see that change that we referenced earlier from the capital improvement. The new line is called Improvement Projects and Repairs, and that was the brainchild of Ted and me, and if somebody has a suggested change for that, now is the time to make it. We're reflecting the $63,500 here, and then when I write the article comment, I will include in here the move from what the CIPC had recommended, and note that we want this to be an ongoing line that is funded with reoccurring revenue, not just one-time funds, and that our target is $100,000 for this line. Further, as I sent out in the email, if folks wanted to do something different with the Affordable Housing Trust. This is one potential place that we could do it. So maybe you want to hold off on voting this until we have that discussion on the Affordable Housing Trust, or maybe you want to just go ahead and have that discussion right now.
I don't think Mike was here when you talked about why that was being moved, the 63.5, were you?
The Capital Improvement Planning Committee included in their recommendation $63,500 for school building repairs, and we have been, as a warrant committee, trying to get this line into the consolidated facilities budget for a couple of years now. It was funded at $85,800 2 years ago. It was in general expenses, and $60,000 last year in general expenses. And this year, the full amount is being approved from the Capital Committee. But our options were to either show zero here when this line is eventually added in, or and to have that amount in the Capital Improvement Committee budget, or to move the $63,500 down so that we could have an amount on this line, and that would also allow us to show the full amount that was funded for building repairs if we were to add something to it from the Affordable Housing Trust. So if we're, say, going to move $15,000 in and the line just says $15,000, that doesn't capture the full amount that we're spending in that department. Steve, do you have anything?
Nope.
Okay. So do you want to talk about Affordable Housing Trust for a minute? I sent, per the discussion the other day, an email to Tom to ask him about what possibly that money could be used for if we're looking at it from a small dollars perspective as opposed to a large dollar perspective, and he hasn't been able to get back to me yet. But I looked back at our notes from our meeting at the high school, and we asked him what he would like to do with that money if he had the opportunity to use it. And all of the suggestions that he made were all large dollar suggestions. It was purchasing a unit or purchasing property or, you know, doing things that were in the hundreds of thousands of dollar range. So I'm open to the pleasure of the warrant committee. That $20,000 that we plugged in there was just a number that Ted and I picked at the beginning of the budgeting process here. As Katie noted when we spoke with her, if that money can be used better somewhere else, they were really hoping for a number more like $500,000 if we were to go with a contingent budget. So in the short term, it might not make a big difference to the Affordable Housing Trust if we were to fund it with a nominal, say, $5,000 or some number like that, and then put rest of that money to use somewhere else if it could be used somewhere else. So I'd like to hear what the group has to think.
Well, I guess we have to think about where we felt like we shorted another department.
Okay, Darnell?
Well, we sat here many years and hear that the consolidated facilities has been doing good across the board to all the different departments. And these funds will, I think, if we put 15 into this, we know it's going to get used up into solving some of the undiscovered ills across the town or across the school. So I think that might be a place that I would recommend me moving that money to, into that improvement project and repair line.
What do others think? Yes, Chuck.
I agree with Darnell.
Anybody else?
I like that idea too.
Anybody else? Yes, Phil.
I'd like to move that we move $10,000 into the consolidated facilities budget from money we were going to appropriate to affordable housing, and keep a $5,000 contribution.
Well, yeah, that would be 5. That would leave 5. It was 20.
It's 20 total.
Okay,
Oh,
So
yeah,
we would
we'll
move 15 and leave 5,
5.
or we would move 10 and leave
Yeah.
10. What's your recommendation?
that we move 15 into
Okay.
the CBO.
Anyone want to second that?
Second.
Chuck, any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. So we're going to play with some numbers for a minute, so if you don't mind being patient, I would appreciate that. $63,500
78,500.
plus 15,000 is going to go to 78,500. And the total down here, 51 plus 15,
It's going to be
is going to be 66.
499.
And the new total, oh no, that's not going to change. The free cash number is, yes, sir?
Should we should be specifying in the motion the line item it should go in, right?
Okay.
Our intention is to put this into improvement projects.
That's what I
Right.
said,
Yes.
when I did it initially.
Is that clear?
Do you
Should
want
we
to,
vote?
you want to revote the?
Just
You
to be
go
safe,
ahead.
I'd like to move that we move $15,000 into the improvement projects and repairs line item of the CFO budget.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? It's unanimous. Okay. 63 plus 15 is 78,500. And then somebody's gonna have to remind me when we get to the Affordable Housing Trust to fix that. And then I need to go and fix the budget sheet, which I can do later. Anne Marie and Amy, any concerns? Hearing none? You're okay? About the math?
No, that's fine.
Okay. All right, well then, may I have a motion on the article?
Yes, I move that we accept this as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Article, let's save. 32, interest in maturing debt. No change since we last sent that out.
Oh, okay, okay.
You good with moving that one?
Mhm. Yes, I recommend we move this as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. That was 32. 33 is stabilization funds, and 34 is, okay, other post-employment benefits liability. So, Amy, do you and Anne Marie want to come and join us at the table for a minute so we can chat? And Chuck, if you want to stay here, I'm sure we can pull 2 chairs up from the front row. All right, you want to come over here? You mind my mess?
We're following you.
So,
Pass the check.
I'm in the little kid's chair.
Here you
if
go.
you don't mind, I'm going to pull my jacket
Coming
up.
at
I'm
you.
getting very hot. All this voting. So Anne Marie and Amy noticed that our free cash number was adding up to $57,371. Too little, I think.
Too much.
Too much, yeah. That difference is the overlay release excess. And so,
But you've counted the full overlay release in this Article 32 of the 221371. So you can't count it again on the other side for free cash. You're double counting.
Yeah.
You're double dipping. You want chocolate on top.
You're still in balance, you just need to fix an article somewhere
Right.
to reduce the amount from free cash and increase the amount from the levy. You're not out of balance.
Yeah.
It's just you've appropriated too
Too
much free
much.
cash
okay.
and not raised enough levy.
So I guess the way that I went wrong is that I was thinking about the money that was coming from the overlay release excess as one-time funds. And did you notice in another article that I appropriated the money from the overlay?
Yeah, page 31, the
30.
article you just voted, you appropriated the full 221371.
Okay.
So you used it all there,
So you-
so
Okay.
you can't use it anywhere else.
All right. So let me make a note to fix
So you
this in
could
the budget
change
sheet.
Another article, we just didn't know which one.
we had suggested,
voted?
no, we had suggested
No, I think
changing,
that's fine the way it is.
we had suggested changing the next Article
To
33.
show.
33?
It's stabilization.
Yes.
So what they had suggested was that we change the tax levy amount to 100.
This
27?
one's backwards, like, this first number is actually the free cash number, the way it's worded. Most articles, you reference the
Oh,
levy
Levy
first and then the
first.
free cash. This one's
All right, let me put the
reference
number in
the
and then I'll switch
free
that
cash
around.
first and then the levy.
So it's 111,337, and then the 8,000 should really be 66,005. And it is 66,005 from the tax levy, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna move this up,
So that's
66,005. Be raised from the tax levy, and that 111,337 be raised from funds certified to the department as free cash. I can make this in the balance of, if you want me to move this up. And that the balance of 111,337 be raised from funds certified by the Department of Revenue as
There's an
free
extra
cash.
and in there.
Say it again?
And that and the balance was an extra and.
It says, and that the balance. Is that better?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. And then, this is completely unnecessary, I'm sure, but I'm going to add these two numbers up. Plus 111,337 is equal to 177,342. Okay. You good with that? It was your suggestion, so I assume you are.
Thank you.
I'll work out the budget sheet later and check that to make sure it's okay. If we needed to revote something later, we can, but I trust that they're correct. Thank you for catching me.
Okay, I recommend we move this article as written.
Thank you.
Second.
Yeah, a discussion, Phil?
Yes. I just want to raise the point that I raised last time, and maybe we shouldn't be doing it this year because it's so late. But we now have an obligation to fund the stabilization fund and the OPEB trust going forward. And we usually only have so much money each year to fund those kinds of things. And I know we have some policies that we've tried to follow in terms of
1/3
percentage
of
of money
1%
and that
of the
kind of
revenue.
thing. But it seems to me that the stabilization fund now has north of $4 million in it. It's not great. It may not even be good, but it is at least fair in terms of the balance. But the OPEB trust has a long, long way to go. And all we're going to be able to do to defray that cost until we pay off the retirement and move what we're putting into retirement now into OPEB is whatever we put in each year going forward. And the earlier we put money in and the more we can put in reduces the number of years and the amount of money it's going to take us to close that obligation for retiree health plans. So I think we ought to look at taking whatever funds we have for both of those funds and doing 1/3 in stabilization and 2/3 in OPEB going forward, because I think that will, over a period of a decade or so, it will make a bigger dent in the obligation that you have for those charges. We may not want to do it now, but I think it should be open for discussion.
So I guess I'm wondering, what is this appropriate level of the stabilization fund? At what point is it, we're in the yellow zone right now, maybe? When do we go to green?
So
5%?
I had this discussion with Ted yesterday based on the comment that you had made, and he told me to go to the Department of Revenue to look up some of their recommendation for putting in the comment. But he thought that the target for the stabilization fund was 5 to 10%.
No, it's 3 to 5.
It's 3 to 5?
It's 3 to 5, and it's 5 to 7 for all reserves, including things like capital, including free cash. So, yeah, it's not.
All right, so maybe he's not correct about that, but based on his thought that it was 5 to 10, he said really he thought our top priority should be funding the stabilization fund first, in case there's a massive cost that comes up, that we would want to hit that target before we started funding OPEB at a higher rate. But I completely understand that we want to start paying down that debt.
Free cash and the stabilization fund puts us within the recommended zone of the DOR. Now, the trouble is, if you rely too heavily on the free cash component of that can go up and down, and you don't know. But at the very least, it might be interesting to have someone look at it and see what the difference would be over a long period of time of upping that OPEB trust by $100,000 a year or whatever it is.
Yeah.
For 10 years.
What the downstream savings are to us. That's a good point. Amy, I'm sorry, do you have any insight on this or anything to share or add?
Not really.
If it's a yes, come to the microphone. If it's a no, then say no.
No, It's not really a guess, it's just keep in mind that the retirement will be fully funded, I think, in 2024, which isn't that far away.
The
The
OPEB?
appropriate, no, the retirement.
Retirement, okay. Oh, and then we could move that
The
money
intention,
from, right.
Bill mentioned was to take that appropriation and direct it to the OPEB.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure $100,000 a year at this point is gonna make a huge difference. At this point, anything we put in at that magnitude is just showing that we know it's there. To the rating agencies, one step is that we did the trust. The trust probably has $500,000, a little more than that. So
To satisfy the question, though, who do you think in town I could work with to try to come up with an estimate of what an extra $100,000 invested today returns to us when the liability is met? Do you have a suggestion on who I could work with?
did
no,
the-
you'd have to look at the.
Who did the actuarial report
On
on the OPEB trust?
the OPEB, that was Odyssey Advisors. You could look at what it used for the rate of return. It all depends where we invest it, and right now, it's not earning.
Are you
We're
talking
at
about the
point where
future
we're
value
looking
of
at,
money?
our
You
options.
can look
where to
in
put
any
it, and then
accounting
once
book.
you know what
The tables at
the
the back of
expected
it.
rate of return is. But even if you got something good like, 7 or 8% on 100,000.
Well, it's not 100,000, it's 100,000 each year.
Right.
So it's gonna be 800,000 by the time the,
When you have a $103 million liability, I'm not sure that 100,000 more a year is gonna make a large impact.
you've got the compounding of interest over, it's gonna take you, the OPEB trust is gonna take you 20 or 30 years probably.
What are we
beyond the
currently
retirement, so that's a
funding
lot
the
of money.
retirement at?
This year it's
5 or 6
5.2 million, I think.
5.2?
Goes up about 300,000 to 400,000 a year. Should be fully funded in 8 to 10 years. And I think it can go either way. I mean,
I think it's a good point, and it's definitely long-range thinking, which I think is important. I think that Phil mentioned that this is something that we could look at doing for next year, and I'll definitely do some digging around that to see what the value would be and if we want to make a different recommendation next year. I think that
Yeah.
Betty had her hand up first, and then I'll come over to you.
Well, what I was wondering about, and maybe Anne Marie, you can remember this, when was the last time the town tapped into the stabilization fund? I was surprised that it was 4 million. I was think that was
Never
pretty
have.
healthy. Have we ever
No.
needed to tap into it for anything?
No.
we have,
We put some money specifically in for
Yes.
and the warrant
Yeah.
clearly noted that this money was deposited with this one specific item in mind, because if you're taking money out for things that are not incredibly unforeseen, then there would be a problem, I think, with your rating agencies.
And what was that used for? Do you remember?
operations.
We just used it as a vehicle to park money
Okay.
Which
for 1 year.
Yeah, which
That's
the
all we
rating
did.
agencies don't like. So we stopped doing
We haven't
that.
done it since.
We don't like to see it in and out constantly.
Okay.
You'd rather don't put it, like, I think there was one year we were gonna put some in and take some out the same year. Just don't do it. The only other thing to note, you put it in stabilization, you can take it out. You put it in OPEB, it's in a trust, it stays there, so it's protected for that purpose,
You can take it out with a 2/3 vote.
out of the stabilization.
All right, I'll look up that DOR recommendation and get it out to everybody, and I'll try to figure out somebody who can forecast, however the money is invested right now, what $100,000 a year over the next 8 to 10 years would do.
Talk to Jean Wilson.
Jean Wilson?
Yeah, former chair. When she was chair, she did a whole breakdown of that, and she's actually an actuarial, so
Okay.
she's very familiar with that. It might be a great source to.
So Phil, to clarify, you're okay with the funding that we have in
Yeah.
here this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I move this article as written.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? No, unanimous, and we're all here still, right? Just Chuck moved. Okay, Article 34 is OPEB, and this has not changed since I set it out to you, $153,276, the total being raised from free cash.
I move that we accept this article as written.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor? Unanimous. Great. Okay, and you're going to see a couple of notes from me where I started to realize that some of the articles are not attributed. And Ted told me that it's standard practice when an article comes every year that it doesn't need an attribution. But this year we have one article that's new that is going to be an every year article. So I thought, how did that come to be without having an attribution? And so he suggested I follow up with town council. So I haven't done that yet. It doesn't impact our voting per se. So I will, I'll get an answer on that before I send out a draft, before I send this to the printer, obviously. But it was just something that I noticed that some of the new articles did not have an attribution for some reason. He told me that definitely it wouldn't say submitted by the warrant committee, but I just had that in there as a note to see who should we attribute a few of these to. So I think that the reserve fund has never had an attribution, but the one that that was causing the problem earlier was, I think I'll remember it in a few minutes. Somebody reminds me. Last year, I think a committee was created, and then this year, sorry, it's slipped out of my head. But anyway, there is a problem. Do you remember?
It's the audit committee.
The audit committee?
Yes, Article 7.
And so now is that a reoccurring article now?
I think,
Let me save this and I'll go to Article 7.
I think the article, we need to speak with town council on Article 7, because as you know, last year, under Article 7 of the 2015 annual town meeting in May, we created that new audit committee.
Right.
So I'm thinking that this has to say pursuant to Article 14 of the 1978 annual March town meeting, and as amended under Article 7 of the May 2015 annual town meeting.
You think it needs to say that in the
It needs to
description of
say-
the article or in
Because
the
the whole-
recommendation?
I think in the description of the article,
Okay.
because that's going to be the boilerplate going forward.
Yeah.
And that committee now is completely changed, and the composition of the committee has changed,
Yeah.
the charge of the committee has changed, and I think it needs to be noted.
Rattle off again what you said?
I
Pursuant
think-
to what?
I think you want to say after Article 14 of the 1978 annual March town meeting, and then in parentheses, it says the town audit committee, and as amended under Article 7 of the May 2015 annual town meeting.
We can't edit that.
Yeah, what do I do about that?
Well, it's a boilerplate, so you may be able to
Oh,
edit a boilerplate.
Because this one isn't recommended every year.
No.
I mean, it's not sponsored every year.
It's not sponsored, it's a boilerplate, considered a boilerplate.
All right, I'm going to talk to John Flynn about that. And I think that there was one other that falls into this category as well. But I have a note on it. Thank you. Does anybody remember where we left off? Was it 35?
35.
We're on 35.
Okay, I just wanted to find so I could scoot down there quickly. So 34 we just did, that was OPEB. 35 is the reserve fund, and we are funding it at $597,445, which is the total amount that's currently in there, including the amount that's set aside for Hendry's.
Yes. Okay. All right. I recommend that we move this article as written.
Second.
OPEB trust.
Any discussion?
You voted? No, just.
No discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Article 36. Amy and/or Anne Marie, does one of you want to come and talk to us? Okay. We didn't get a chance to discuss this via email earlier. There's been a couple of changes to the revolving fund limits. One of them that we had discussed extensively at this committee was increasing the Board of Health to $30,000. Another one Anne Marie and I had discussed last year at town meeting, which was this number for the East Milton Library revolving fund. It had been set at, I think it was just $6,000. and the balance is well higher than that, and you take in approximately 18,000 a year.
18,000.
So in order to ever access the balance that's above $18,000, Ted's recommendation was that we make this 25, so that if they were to do a big like roof project or something like that, that they could remove money from that fund. I think that the one that you have a question about right now is the Board of Park Commissioners, which we had increased to $100,000, which I did make them aware of, and I didn't hear back from them. But what did you have written on the sheet?
I'm going to let Amy respond because she handles the revolving funds and she's got all the
Okay.
paperwork here.
So historically, that's been 75,000, and if you look at the revenue that they take in every year, they take in somewhere around 70,000. The end of fiscal 2015, they had 18,000 in there. So there's no way, unless they're planning on increasing fees or having some kind of large jump in revenue, that they should have a limit of 100,000. When I report to the Department of Revenue, they'll ask me what the receipts in that revolving fund was, and if our limit of what they can spend is significantly higher than the receipts, and I don't have a reason why, then
Can you
I
rattle
have
off the
some
numbers one more time?
justifying to do.
Approximately, what do they take in each year?
About 70,000. I looked at the last 3 years. 15 was 70,000, 14 was only 50,000, and 13 was 71,000.
Okay, and
so-
let me just try to jog my
Yep.
memory on something. I'm remembering a long discussion with Ted at this meeting about the park's use of gift funds and how are they putting money into gift funds and then using it like a revolving fund? I kind of remember him saying that he
Well-
wanted to stop the process of the use of gift funds and have the money correctly flow into the revolving fund and flow out of the revolving fund, but to do that, the
Well, if you
amount
get a
needed to be higher.
gift, it has to be reported as a gift, and you have to
I kn-
spend it out of a gift fund.
I
So you
know.
can't
Specific-
manipulate the revolving fund for gifts.
I understand
so-
that, and I think Ted understands that too. I think his concern was that the gift funds were not being used as gift funds, but were being replenished somehow, and that they had long been depleted and replenished. Am I making that up? Nobody remembers this
I
conversation?
remember it very clearly.
Phil,
What's the balance in there?
In what?
18,000.
At the end of 2015, it was $18,000.
Because I seem to remember that the issue was that there was a large balance that they couldn't access fully because of the limit. But
that's true for the other two, but maybe
Those
not for
numbers
this one.
sound really strange compared to what we were looking at.
Yeah, and
I don't understand why we would have
Yeah,
done
the
that
100
based on those numbers.
when I saw the 100, it concerned me because there's no way I can justify that to the Department of Revenue, even if I say has an $18,000 balance at the end of the year, they take in 70,000, he's going to say then it should be no more than 88,000. I can't get to the 100,000. I don't know if the parks gave you that number.
I think it was Ted.
So to me, I have concerns. I think the 75,000 that it was at is more reasonable. If you wanted to go up to get at the 18,000 that was there at the end of last year, then if you increase it, it should be temporary for 1 year, and then it should be looked at again next year, because we need to make sure if we're increasing these because there's a balance in there, that we look at them every year so that we don't get ourselves in trouble. I watch it to make sure that they don't spend more than they have, and that's usually my response to the DOR is, well, I know that it has a limit of 100,000, they only take in 70, but I'm not gonna let them spend more than that. That can get me by only so many times, but when it's clearly that far off, I think I'm gonna have a hard time
I understand.
explaining that.
I'm just trying to pull up, one second, Darnell, if you don't mind. I'm just trying to pull up what we discussed at the Parks meeting. There's, maybe this spreadsheet has their funds in it. I'm gonna get a check minus from Ted if I screw something up. Recreation revolving. This is I'm sorry, I can't do this without my commas and everything. I don't know how Ted looks at it like that. Okay.
No. You're not getting it confused with their revolving fund, which they do all the summer programs and that stuff out of, are you?
I don't know.
Because they have another one that's not in this table, that's referenced in the Park and Rec article. That one usually has a large balance at the end of the fiscal year because they're taking in tuitions from all the summer programs, and I wonder if maybe he was getting the two confused.
Just the timing issue.
So what
Yeah.
article number is the parks?
You have, I
I
don't
probably
know.
can find it by searching.
It's a couple pages before this, I think.
28?
28?
Yeah.
Not the right 28. Okay, so Article 28.
Now, right here at the bottom of 29, beginning of 30.
What are you saying, Amy?
The bottom of page 29 from the draft you gave us
Yep.
today.
So I have the parks is up right now. It's Article 28, and I think, did this
It
just
does.
mention the revolving fund in the comment?
No, see, in the article, to see if it will vote to authorize the continued use of the Park and
All right.
Recreation revolving fund.
And I remember a discussion from last year where Ted had wanted to put in the recommendation something like a requirement to give us the balance each year of that revolving fund. Maybe it is possible that he confused the two,
Yeah.
and he knows that they need it. But do we authorize the withdrawal limit on that one?
No,
No,
It has an unlimited withdrawal limit.
yeah, I believe so, because it's
under chapter.
it's under a different chapter. It's not a
Okay.
53 E
All
and a
right,
half,
so-
I think is the difference.
Just want to look at this for one more minute. So he has this, I'm going to increase this so other people can see it a little bit. The park funds 2015, Guile Road maintenance, recreation revolving. So these Kelly gifts, Andrew gifts, and the rental revenue must all be in separate accounts. These are not part of the revolving fund, I imagine. Guile Road
They're not
gifts.
the way I record it. If maybe had a question that they were being recorded wrong, but if so, I haven't been tuned into that to research it, so.
All right, so I think I need to discuss this with Ted, and we might need to revote this, but would everybody be okay with a compromise right now of 85?
Was there a reason that we have to vote on it at all? Seems like this,
Well, I can put it back down to what it was, and then if it's an emergency,
75.
if it's urgent, we can.
Because if come in a state of special need for that extra 18, then I would say leave it at 75, because if you look at the numbers Amy was coming up with, she like this, they go down as 50 to 60. They haven't been up over 75 in what the last couple of years.
Amy?
And to Darnell's point, I think he has a good point there, is who's requesting this? This should come from the Parks Commissioners. They should have requested an increase. It shouldn't just come because we,
Right, I did try to engage them in
No.
a conversation, but I didn't hear back from the chairman of the trustees, nor did I hear back from Dave.
did you tell them you were thinking of increasing
Yeah.
it to 100? Like, I would have
I
thought.
very explicitly
Yeah, I
told
would
them
just be
what we were
concerned
doing.
with that, too.
I did hear back on Board of Health, and I heard back from Anne Marie on the third one for East Milton. So I put it back to 75. If we need to fix this later, we can. I will talk to Ted about it and see if I'm missing the forest for the trees.
And again, on the East Milton,
Yep.
I agree in increasing that to 25,000 for now because it does have a healthy balance in it. But as Amy was talking about earlier, we do only take in 18,000 a year, so at some point we need to reduce that once we expend all of the balance that's in there.
And that will be in about 4 years, because if you figure it's a 7,000, if we take in 18, there's about 30,000 in there, so that's about 4 years at 7,000 extra a year. So we have to just keep it on our radar that we might have to reduce it again in a couple of years. Because I think one of your questions was, when does the lease expire?
Right.
And it expires in April of 2021, so we're taking in 1,500 a month. So until that lease expires, it's not gonna go up.
Did you say 2021?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll put this in the
April
comment.
2021.
Thank you. All right, I'll fix that up later.
The other one that we want to request that you reduce is the Board of Selectmen's operation, repair, rental, and maintenance of the senior center. You have that at $25,000. That senior center doesn't get rented out very much, and I think there's a balance of $300.
It's a balance of
Yeah,
$500 in there.
yeah.
We took in $300 in 15,
So we'd like
zero
to-
in 14, and 0 in 13. So this $25,000 limit
It's way
was
too.
when it was first set up, and there were all of these ideas that it would be popular to rent, but,
Well, somebody needs to get on that. Seems like maybe there's some money to be made.
Well, I think it was the issue of not
It's
being
the
able to get liquor license.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the liquor
And a
license.
public
Well, they
building
might actually
problem.
relax that rule, right? So that would be exciting.
So that we can
Um,
increase it at that point in time, but for Amy, in order to have her deal with the DOR, we're requesting that you reduce that to 1,000.
Would somebody make a motion to reduce this, please?
Make a motion, we reduce the seniors operation to $1,000. Revolving
Second.
fund to 1,000.
Thank you for the second, Jean. Discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Any other things that we can fix?
That's it.
no, and just keep in mind on the Board of Health one, that's also one that in a couple years we're gonna have to reduce once they erode the balance. Right?
Oh,
So we're
right.
she takes in about 13 or 14,000 a year. I think she anticipates that increasing due to some changes in some reimbursements. So if we're increasing it to 30,000, she had about 30,000 at the end of fiscal 15. So, you know, that's, I do the math, 30, it's like 3 years of 10,000 a year extra. And then that will have to be decreased if she doesn't take in significantly more.
The library as well.
Right,
Did
and
you wanna
then
mention
the
the
other one
library
was
too?
the library. I believe they increased theirs temporarily to
You
85,000.
do have another one.
I do, to 85,000, and they've used that up. So if you keep that at 80, and I know they requested that last year, and I believe it was just to get at the balance. But again, they have 10 grand in there, they take about 60 grand in a year. So this really should go back to the 60 that it was originally at the year, 2 years ago, I think it was.
We may want to put it at 70 because it has a 10,000.
Library
It's only one
brings
time.
library brings in 60 grand a year, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, about 60,000 a year.
Balance is what right now?
Well, at the end of 15, it was 11,000, but they
Fiscal year
can
or
spend-
annual or calendar year?
Fiscal year, but they can spend 85. So if they only bring in 60 in fiscal 16 plus 10, then they're not going to be able to spend the full 85. So I anticipate for 17, it should go back to 60 because they won't have a
If
fund
we
balance left.
if we lowered it to 60, then they didn't choose to spend anything until the end of the year, the balance would be 70. Then we're creating a situation where they can't access the full amount again.
No, because I'm looking at 10,000 at the end of fiscal year 15.
Right. Oh, 15.
Right, so 60 grand will come in 17, that will mean 70,000, they have an
What
authorization to spend
What came in
85.
16 though?
I don't know yet, I didn't know that.
Probably 60, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, so
And do we know if they spent anything in 16?
they've spent, no, but my guess is they'll spend the full 85 that they're authorized, if they have it.
Oh, I see.
So they'll probably only spend 70, because
That's
if
all
my
they have. estimates
estimates are right, 60 plus the 10 that's in there, they won't even be able to get to the 85 this year.
I see. Does anybody have any concerns or want to make a motion on this?
And I don't know if that needs to come from the library.
Yeah?
Yeah,
You want to talk to the library?
I think so. I don't want to trim them and then have them say it wasn't enough.
I mean, that one's not as far off,
Well, so
like with the, for the explanation to the DOR.
That was
Put it at 70.
one-time money last year, raising it
Yeah,
to buy extra books. We were looking at that
yeah.
appropriation this year, it looks like it's gone up. Out of the tax law.
75? From the little wiggle room?
Did anybody see if there was anything in the comment about it being a one-year thing?
Yeah.
It was 1 year, well, last year was a 1 year to deplete above
balance.
the balance is.
Sixty
yeah.
One-time
thousand?
use on books and materials.
Was it 60,000?
Or was it
You mentioned
65?
this year that he's doing
65,
less.
I do have 16. He's taken in $39,000 through the end of February.
February.
So he's trending right around the 60,000 for this
Can you
year.
put that to your reading? Last year's
Yeah.
library revolving fund was increased from 65 to 85, freeing 20 grand for one-time use on books and materials.
So it's a
Okay.
one-time use, so it should go back.
This should,
To the
yeah.
65.
Yeah, it should be at the 65.
You don't want to do it.
Just one voice, do whatever we want.
Why don't
I
you
would
want to
say-
do it?
I just would rather hear from them first, or
Yeah,
give
I
them
would-
some,
I would
half,
too.
a partway check.
That's all. The money's not there, so it don't matter.
No, you don't know.
I would like to hear from them too.
Would folks be comfortable voting it as is, and that once I talk to the library, if we need to bring it down, we'll revote it later?
Will we have him in?
I'll just call Will. Or it might actually be a discussion for Chris. I don't know. Yeah?
Did you say leave it at, why don't you just put it at 65 and then if you're gonna vote it, you might not need to vote it at that point, right?
Lower it and then raise it again if we need to raise it again?
Well, if you're gonna vote now anyway.
Why don't you make a motion, we can have a discussion.
I'll make a motion to lower it to 65,000.
I'll second it.
Darnell, okay, discussion?
I think that they've got the money they need for books and materials out of the appropriation.
For
already.
16?
Yeah.
Okay, and we can
Would you
put
tell them to
this.
make sure they spend?
I will tell
spend it?
them. I will tell them. I've got it
Comment,
noted
I mean, I
here.
agree with Steve, but my comment, what I'm really saying is, if we're gonna vote it anyway,
Yeah.
I'd vote it at 65, because then we might not have to
Still
vote
that
anything
number, they
back.
have to vote it
It's
at.
more than
Okay.
likely if they're
If
gonna
we have to
leave
put it back to 85 or to 75 after a discussion with the library and the Board of Trustees, then I'll bring it back to the meeting next week. Okay? All right,
Then we vote the motion.
so let me just review what we did. So, this had been 75 before. Ted had suggested increasing it to 100. We're putting it back to 75. I'm going to discuss that with Ted and the parks. The library has been decreased from 85 to 65, and I'm going to talk with the library about that. The Board of Health, as we know, was increased. Did I miss one? And the Board of Selectmen for
Selectmen increased.
East Milton Library was increased to 25, which is probably going to be just for a year or two or something.
And we decrease the,
Approximately, no.
decrease of the council on aging.
Increasing it to
No, no,
1,000.
this
Oh,
one.
Council on Aging was the one?
No.
Sorry, yeah, that was, I knew I was missing one.
Rents.
Down to 1,000.
Yeah.
$1,000.
Down to
There it
1,000,
is.
yeah.
I was reading Board of Selectmen, I was missing, there it is, Senior Center. So the Senior Center was decreased to $1,000 because they're bringing in somewhere close to $300 or $400 in revenue each year, and their balance is only $500, so they don't need anywhere near that withdrawal limit. All right, now, motion for Article 36.
I recommend, well, we're generally going to revisit this, right?
We're going to only revisit it if the library needs us to increase that amount, or Ted and the parks need us to increase the parks.
Okay,
So that's right.
but I can't put that in my recommendation.
Can't.
I move this article as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? I think that was unanimous. No? Sorry.
One opposed.
One opposed. Thank you. Article 37 is the Affordable Housing Trust. I'm going to reduce this to $5,000. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Anne Marie. I'm going to highlight it so that I remember to go fix it in the revenue sheet. Okay, I think I've got myself figured out. So the only change to this, per our discussion earlier in the night, is we're reducing it from 20,000 to 5,000. That other 15,000 was appropriated to the consolidated facilities budget.
Right,
So Article 37.
okay. I move we recommend this as written.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor? That one looks unanimous. Thank you. Okay, Article 38, we already voted. Julia, would you make a note to go and find the language that we voted at the library? It should be in the minutes. You can paste that in here when I send you the next budget. Noise prevention from construction, I think we already voted. And the general bylaws, I think we already voted. I'm sorry, the general bylaw for bed and breakfast, we already voted. What we didn't vote was the tax, and I have not heard back from town attorney yet on this. So we can leave it out there a little while longer. I'll follow up with him again. That's Article 41, yep.
I thought I didn't know we voted on the bed and breakfast. I thought that was pulled.
We voted on it the night that the planning board was here.
Send it back.
Send it
Okay.
back.
And
They
we-
sent it back.
So the
for
recommendation
further
was to refer
Oh, all
the
right,
subject
okay.
matter to the
All right.
planning board for further study. And the planning board had asked us to go through with recommending the bed and breakfast tax, in case they're able
Yes,
to
all
use
right,
it
okay.
for Airbnb or the current bylaws right now. Joe Prondak advised the planning board that there may actually be an allowance for a small bed and breakfast. The way the bylaws are written now, it's unclear. So I followed up with town council to get clarification on whether or not we need this this taxability. Okay, Article 42 is the non-conforming business use bylaw. We also voted to return this one to the planning board for further study. Excuse me. Article 43 was redesignating a section. We already recommended that that section be redesignated. And then Article 44 is the leash law, and that was voted through, although not unanimously.
Thank you.
Article 45 is the Milton Playground Planners, and we need to vote this one. There is no money left over. The budget comes to zero, but the Capital Improvement Planning Committee did include $125,000 in their capital request. We did approve that earlier this evening, and I did hear back from Dave, and Amy had heard previously from the chair of the trustees that they were looking to work with that planning, Playground Planning 2.0 group on how to use that money. So that was the message that we delivered to that group when they were here last week. Does anybody have any questions about Article 45? Well, then my recommendation would be that the town vote no appropriation at this time. And I can put in the comment that we are appreciative of their efforts, of course, and recognize that there is some money set aside in the capital budget so that it
So
doesn't look
moved.
funny. Thanks, Darnell. Want to second it?
Yep.
Thanks, Jean. Any discussion? All those in favor? Unanimous? Yep. Okay. Thank you. I think that's it.
Did we vote 24, Article 24?
Steve's leaving. Can't take it. Article 24 is to authorize the Board of Selectmen to acquire, I think we just did that earlier. This is the East Milton Square
I didn't
easements.
get a
Yes.
vote on that. Is that unanimous? Do you know?
Yes.
Was it?
I don't remember anybody dissenting to Article 24. Do you want to revote it just so that it's clear?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Hey, Steve.
Steve?
We're going to revote Article 24 on the easements for East Milton Square.
We did vote on
I
that.
know, but just so
Okay.
that Julia has it in her notes, Jean, would you
Sure.
move that one again?
Yes, I will.
For Article
Yep,
24?
I move we accept Article 4 as written.
Second.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank
Although, any discussion? All those in favor?
Thank you.
Unanimous. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. All right. So, let's look at the calendar for a minute. Talk. I told the Board of Selectmen and so many other people that will help us to read this document that I would give them about a week to look at it. So my goal is to write a bunch of comments and put them in, get some comments from a few people, including the library, which Jean has just about done. She's going to email it to me, and get those in there, and send this back out in draft form maybe around Wednesday or Thursday, and then ask people to return it back to me next Wednesday. And we have to have it to the printer in final draft by April, I think it was 4th or 5th. 4th, Monday. So if we were to send it to the printer on the 30th, well, I won't be able to make all the changes in one day, but if we were to have the changes for next Wednesday the 30th, if there were any, and then be able to meet on Wednesday the 30th to vote any necessary changes, I could send it to the printer on Thursday the 31st. And then that would give them a chance to get a draft back to us and for us to do one final proofread. But so I think that like just barely makes it in if we give everybody a full week to review it. Does anybody have any concerns with that plan? What's missing right now are a couple of tables that Julia has. I think that she's received them and she needs to flow those in over the next couple of days. And then we need the 3 articles from Joe, which we would vote next week. And then we need the letter from the moderator, which I have made him aware of, and I need to write the report of the committee. And so my goal would be to write that over the next 3 days and give you folks a week to sit with it, make some comments back to me, and then I could rewrite a draft and have it for discussion next Wednesday.
That sounds good.
I think it might all come together. Without having to
It might
reschedule a town meeting. So can folks, does anybody have a concern about meeting next Wednesday? All right, so there's no reason to meet this Thursday now, and I don't think we need to meet next Monday. I'll let you know by Thursday at the latest if something comes up, and we'll fix that revolving fund article or anything else that we have an issue with from tonight's voting next Wednesday. You want to be done?
Second. I'll second.
All those in favor? Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.